Hello, hello. Let's get going here. See if we are live. Get this started. Alrighty. Welcome. I'm Katrina Walker, and with YouTube Live, it's always just a little bit of time at the beginning to get things started. Okay, let me just double check here that we're going here. And there we go. So just double checking. Thank you for your patience. This is, like I said, I'm always just double checking, making sure everything's going. So I have a really fun no-sew love note for you today from Clover. Now, it's kind of funny because I am a sewist. So designing a project that's quick and easy with no sewing is really a lot of fun for me. And so it just kind of cracks me up. So we're going to be getting going. And you can add, of course, some stitching if you want to, but let me just make a quick adjustment here on my volume. All right, so here is our little fun project today. It's a little love note because here in my studio, it's Valentine's Day. I know if you, just in case you haven't actually, been observing this with all the marketing ads you've been getting in your email, it is Valentine's Day at the moment. And so here's a little love note. And I made this with fabric scraps. This is little bits of batik with kind of a heart theme. And there's a little special note on the back. In my case, you are my favorite person. So I showed this to my husband yesterday, and he got a real kick out of it. So he's not a purple person, but I think he appreciated the sentiment anyway. So let's get going and show you how quick and easy it is to make this little love note that you can give to your loved ones. Heck, you can give it to yourself, whatever you want to do, but it's super fun and easy to make. So what this is going to be using is we are going to be using some Wonder Fuse. So some of the ingredients here, we have Clover Wonder Fuse, and we use this to, of course, stick it all together. This is a sheet of, it's a really lightweight fusible. It's really wonderful to work with, super easy. We're also, of course, we need some fabric. And in my case, I was actually using scraps. So you want your scraps to be at least 4 inches by 3 inches is the dimensions I'm going with. And you'll need a piece both for the decorative part, and you'll need something to write on. So for my second piece, I just had some plain white fabric that I could write on. So now you could technically probably use paper for this. I didn't experiment with paper, so I can't guarantee that, of course, paper is the way to go. But anyhow, so you need some scraps of fabric, and of course you'll need some sort of fabric for your little contrast also, for your little hearts or whatever design motif you decide to go with. Obviously, this can be adapted to any kind of project. If you wanted to do a, make luggage tags, what have you, obviously this can all be adapted to that. All right, so we're also using today, this is Clover's awesome, this is their applique sheet. So it's actually, the official name is the Design Pro Applique Mat. And the Design Pro Applique Mat comes with, so it's this awesome silicone, transparent, non-slip, non-stick. It's fantastic. And then it also comes with a non-stick pressing sheet to go with it. So it's been specially designed to do applique, to make applique easy. The fact that it's transparent or at least translucent means you can actually, if you're doing a really complicated multi-step design for applique, you can actually put the drawing for your design behind it and then use it to set up all your pieces. It's just brilliant. So the Design Pro applique mat we're also using. Of course, you will need an iron as well. So, and over here on my side overhead here, of course, a cutting mat and a ruler would be a good idea, along with, of course, your Clover rotary cutter. Okay, so I know I'm a little kind of all over the place, but again, just to recap, you're going to want at least a couple pieces of fabric that are at least 4 inches by 3 inches. Okay, mine's a little bigger. I'm going to cut it down. You're going to want those for both the front and the back of our little tag. Now this tag, of course, can be, your little love note can be whatever size you want. So you can alter it to suit your personal preferences. You'll also need something to make the loop with. You'll want something for the loop. And I'll talk in just a moment about what size to make that. And you'll want some kind of contrasting fabric for your motif. In my case, it's hearts because it's Valentine's Day. Now, oh, one more thing too, you'll need something to write with. Now, I'm using a combination of a tea juice marker and a Fabrico marker. So there's a lot of different markers you can use. These are actually designed for writing specifically on fabric, but of course, a good old permanent ink pen will usually do the trick just fine. But I, of course, have all the tools, so I'm using some special fabric markers, but you don't absolutely have to have those. Okay, so here we go. So I have this strip. It's already cut 3 inches wide, but I need to cut it down because I really only want it to be 3 by 4. So, oops, and I'm going to turn it around because it's easier for me that way. Okay, so, and this is just, again, assuming that you're just doing 1 or 2 and you're using scraps. So it wouldn't have to be that way. And actually, now that I look at this, I think actually, I said 3 by 4 because that's stuck in my head, but I think I actually cut it 3 by 5. So there you go. 3 by 5. I guess that's like an index card. Do you remember index cards? I don't know how many people do. That might be too old school. Any rate, 3 by 5. My apologies. 3 by 5. Luckily, I have pieces I can check. So make sure you have a front and a back. And we're going to cut that up. And we're going to take it over to our ironing board because we need to go ahead and fuse this. Okay. So now we have a sheet of fusible. So there's one side is rough. One side is rough. So the rough side, or has kind of shiny side, that's the side with the fusible web on it. The other side is just paper. Now, it's easiest if you work with a big piece of fabric to just fuse this to the back of your fabric, and then you can cut out your shapes. So that's another way to do it. But I'm assuming we're just working off the assumption that you're working with scraps. And that's the beauty of having this applique mat with that nonstick pressing sheet, is that I can just line up my fabric and I can put my nonstick pressing sheet over the top of that. And I'm going to use my iron to press for 5 to 7 seconds now without steam. Now, this wants to steam if I touch the handle the wrong way. So I'm just going to kind of be careful about that. But the nonstick pressing sheet means that even if my piece of fabric isn't going to cover the fusible web perfectly, I don't have to worry about getting fusible web on my iron, my work surface, or anything. It's going to protect it. Now, of course, you can just carefully press, watch those edges, and just carefully press. But again, about 5 to 7 seconds is what we're looking for to get this up and running. Okay. So once that's been thoroughly hot, I like to let it just rest for just a moment to cool off before I peel my sheet back. And of course, you're going to do this to both whatever your outside your fashion fabric is, your decorative fabric. And then if you have a piece of white fabric that you're going to use to write your love note, of course, you're going to fuse fusible web to that as well. You also want to do that, of course, to your accent fabric. You can see I was having fun drawing lots of hearts on. In this case, I fused the fusible web with the Wonder Fuse. I fused it to the back of my fabric, and then I drew my design. And that's the great thing is this is paper backed. So you can just draw your design out and then go ahead and cut it out. These are not necessarily the correct scissors for this, but we're going to make it work. Actually, the curve is kind of nice. So you see how easy it would be to create any kind of shape. You could even use a cookie cutter to trace around to create your silhouette for your shape. So it's really the only limit is your imagination in what kind of things you want to do with your fusible web. And so I think I'm going to use this little bit bigger heart. So this is cooled down, I can peel this off. So even though this was heated, it's still on the mat, but it's also, of course, stuck to my fabric, which is awesome. But that's where the non-stick pressing mat, anytime you're working with fusible web, it really makes a big difference. Now I'm going to cheat and use some camera magic here because, of course, I already have pieces prepared. So I also am going to want to prepare. So here's my heart. So this has fusible on it. I'm just going to peel that paper off. And see how it's kind of shiny? You can see that fusible web. I'm just going to stick it right on there. Now once more, I could put my fusible web, my transparent pressing sheet down, or I can just set my iron, let it do its thing, 5 to 7 seconds of a hot, dry iron. Just a little pressure. Just let it cool. If you try to move it too much while it's still hot, there's always the chance that, the glue might still be warm enough to move. So I just like to let it sit. But we need to write our love note anyway. So here's my little paper for my love note. Actually, that's a little warm. Let's go here. And so let's see, what shall we say? I think the classics are always pretty great. So I think I'm just going to say, I love you. I think everybody enjoys that message. And I can always draw a few little hearts if I want to. Obviously, whatever you want to say. Feeling a little mushy today. I have lots of hearts. Here we go. There's our little message. Okie dokie. So now, we're going to take I still haven't peeled the paper off. Obviously I peeled the paper off because I fused my heart on, but I haven't peeled the paper off of my white fabric or my fashion designer fabric. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to place these. I'm placing these paper together. The paper acts like a nice little stabilizer here. So I'm placing these paper together. And I'm going to grab my pinking shears. Now that's an ingredient I didn't mention yet. So here's my pinking shears. And of course, pinking shears have those sharp edges, like shark's teeth kind of. Just gotta make sure which edge I want to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and just give it a little pinking. And that will finish the edge. Now this shouldn't fray because it's fused, but by finishing those edges in advance, that gets us ready to go ahead and put our loop in place. Now, for the ribbon loop, I just grabbed, well, literally a piece of ribbon, and I wanted this loop to be about a 4-inch loop. So I cut a 10-inch piece of ribbon. And so 10 inches gives me enough ribbon to be able to extend the tails into the inside of my love note, at least an inch. So, I mean, I have a lot of space here. So, but you need to think about, so when you're looking at your ribbon, or trying to figure out how long to make it, I would say 10 inches is a good place to start. But think about how you want to use your love note. If you want to say, loop over a doorknob, you might want to make it a little longer. If you just need it to be able to loop around itself to tie it onto something, then it doesn't have to be quite so long. But anyhow, I went with 10 inches. So we can go back to our applique mat. And I'm going to peel off the paper. Might be easier if I had fingernails today. Oops, a little staticky here. It's really nice that this is grippy because right now it's very staticky in my studio, and this mat's doing a great job of just holding things in place for me. So appreciate that. And you can just use this on top of, again, you can use this applique mat on top of whatever pressing surface you want. It doesn't have to be a special pressing surface because the pressing mat itself is basically silicone. All right, so let's peel off this. I'll place this upside down. And I'm going to place my ribbon. And if your ribbon is misbehaving, if it's being a bit of a pain, before you fuse everything together, you can take your nonstick pressing sheet, hold it in place, and just give it a little encouragement. I'm not worried about sticking it down permanently just yet, but just enough to get it to stay put. Love that nonstick pressing sheet. Okay, so now my ribbon's behaving a little better. So I'm going to line up those pinking marks. You have to pink it beforehand because, of course, once the ribbon's in there, you can't finish the edges. So that's why you want to just line those up. I'm not worried about perfection around the other edges of my little love note because I'm going to trim those up with my pinking shears afterward. So I just need to be close. Okay? So just get everything lined up. Move my finished one out of the way here. Let's just set this down. And we're going to fuse this. Now I'm going to try to stay off my ribbon. I don't want to get it, I'm not sure, it might melt if it gets too hot. So I'm staying off my ribbon. But I'm just going to make sure that my love note gets plenty of warmth from my iron. Just give it some love. Yeah, that's plenty hot. Hot, hot, hot. Yeah. Okay. Hot off the press. There's our new little love note. So we just have some finishing to do to get it cleaned up. See, it's not perfectly aligned, and that's completely okay. But, you know, my ribbon's stuck in there. I'm not going to pull super hard till this cools off, but my ribbon's in place. I just need to finish it up. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that, and actually I'm going to do it over the wood. Maybe a little easier to see. And I do trim, I'm going to trim it from the back because I can see better where I've missed the edges here. And of course I could use a rotary cutter with pinking blades. That's of course an option as well. But don't worry too much about perfection. Remember that you made this with love. And things made with love, it's okay for them to look homemade. Right? Because it shows you made it with love. So just trim up the edges here. And there's our little love note. Yay! And there's our front. Okay, so wasn't that just the easiest thing ever? A little bit of fusible web and some scraps, and you can make a really special little Valentine. But let me just real quick, we can talk about some ways we can jazz this up. So, of course, again, being a sewist, I can't help myself. Just want to say that, you know, even though this is really quick, no sew, our little love note, and I think I'm actually going to put these on my scissors. So here's my pinking shears. But I love to have tags for my scissors. So actually, you may find me making a bunch of these in smaller sizes just for my scissor leashes, because sometimes you need to make sure people know whose scissors those are. So here's my little, it's now my new scissor tag. But anyhow, just because we did this, you know, quick and no sew, not everybody has a sewing machine, but that doesn't mean that you couldn't choose to add decorative stitching around the edges of your love note. You certainly could do, before you glue it all together, you certainly could add decorative stitching around your motif, whatever your motif is. You could needle felt this instead. There's a lot of things you could do. And also, this is a nice soft love note, but if you wanted it stiffer, you could cut a piece of lightweight cardstock, smaller than your finished size, and you could fuse that inside your fabric sandwich. If you wanted this to be stiffer, like if you wanted to be, say, a luggage tag. If you wanted to use these for luggage tags, I would definitely stitch across at least the end where your ribbons are to give it a little bit more strength, because we all know how much wear and tear those things take. But there it is, our little no-sew love note made with batiks and little white fabric. We also used Wonderfuse, and we used our fabulous Design Pro applique mat to create that. So I hope you've enjoyed this little tutorial, and go out and make your own love notes or a little note for any occasion. It's just so fast and so easy to do as long as you just have a few simple tools. So thank you very much for joining me. I'm Tool School instructor Katrina Walker, coming live from my studio in Spokane, Washington. And so I just want to wish all of you a very loved Valentine's Day. Even if you don't celebrate it, I hope that you are enjoying the love of crafting, if nothing else, on this beautiful day. So take care.